Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Coffee with Jen and Sharon.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining us.
So Sharon, I had a little excitement this morning.
Oh,
Sharon and I haven't chatted yet, so this is going to be new information for her. It's not that exciting, but right as we were making our coffee this morning, there was a huge bang, and then all the lights went out.
okay.
So I went outside, and like all my neighbors are doing the same thing, so that's good because then you know it's not just your house. It turns out I'm like Gladys Kravitz in the neighborhood. You know, like I see the illuminating truck coming, and I'm like, I'll just walk down and just see what's going on. And I'm talking to the dude, the power dude, and he says, I asked him, I said, it sounded like it was right behind my house. He's like, yeah, it's that pole right there. And he said, I think it's just the fuse that blew, not the whole transformer, which is good news, which is why my power is back on now.
Yeah, I was going to say, we're live, so.
Right. But he said the culprit is, are you ready for this?
Yeah.
Do you want to guess? Do you want to guess what who or what the culprit is?
Okay, so this happened near my house once, and a squirrel had electrocuted themselves.
Bingo. You got it. And then I started remembering, do you remember the big blackout of the Eastern Seaboard that was like 2003 or something like that?
Something like that.
That was caused by a squirrel too, I believe.
No, was it?
I think it was. Somebody out there in Google land, will you please Google that for us and see if I'm making that up? But I feel like it was a squirrel that chewed through one little wire in Cleveland, Ohio, and the whole Eastern Seaboard power went out.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, squirrels, they're cute, man, but they are a menace to society. What are we going to do about this? I'm only now getting a hot cup of coffee because of those.
Well, you know what? This reminds me of, we're talking today about perfectionism in our kids.
Oh yeah, we do have a topic.
But what this brings to mind is there are certain things in life that we all expect to be perfect. One of them is our power.
Oh yeah.
We're not like, oh, it's okay if it doesn't work for 10 minutes a day, whatever it might be.
Look at my hair. Does this look like hair that I got to use a hairdryer on? No.
I also want perfection in my surgeons.
Oh yeah, that's a good one. That's
really, there are certain things that. Yes. I mean, my pilot. I want.
Yeah, my pilot to be pilot for sure. Wait, that reminds me. Another current event story. I was able to read the news on my phone this morning because we still had 3G or 4G or whatever G we might have. And there's a story about a guy who had to land a plane, even though he had never flown before. It was one of those, it was a Cessna, and something happened to his pilot. His pilot had a medical emergency. So I assume he was like a business guy or, somebody who was flying private corporate jet or something. Whatever happened, the pilot totally incapacitated. So he had to get on with the I don't know, the powers that be, the air traffic controllers, and say, hey, I got a problem here. I've never flown a plane before and my pilot is out of commission. How do I land this thing? And he landed it.
That's incredible.
Okay, that guy, I want to meet him.
May it never happen to me.
May it never.
No interest in landing a plane and having other people rely on me to do that.
Absolutely not. Right. So, okay. So as Sharon did say, we digressed a little bit. We were talking the other day about perfectionism and how sometimes it manifests in our kids and what we think about that. And how, like, sometimes this, you might think, okay, teenagers, we kind of jokingly wish they could be more perfect. Like there's certain things they don't do perfectly, like, replacing the toilet paper or taking out the garbage or homework done. But honestly, there are kids out there, and they become full-grown adults who have this too, who just have that perfectionism streak in them. Mm-hmm. And it can be a little bit worrying because we know they're setting themselves up for too high a standard. So what are your thoughts on this, Sharon?
Well, what's funny is I think we may have talked about this, but I've definitely seen this and talked to other parents who've seen the same thing. Perfectionism can be that familiar thing when you have the kid who is making sure everything is right, even past the point where you think they should be working on something anymore. Yeah. They're driving themselves to that point where, you just want to say, stop. It's okay. It doesn't have
You've let them off the hook. You're like, that is really good enough. Your math fair project is good enough.
Right. Good enough is hard for perfectionists to take. And And then, but I think the flip side of that sometimes we don't see as much is the kid who is a perfectionist, and because of that, they opt out. Because they know they'll never meet that standard, or they see the goal of what they want the picture to look like, whether it's a literal picture or not, and they know that they can't match that. So what may look like laziness, or why isn't my kid meeting their potential, it's actually that kid knowing I'm not that good yet, and I'm just not going to do it, or I'm going to wait till the last minute, and then I can blame the fact that I didn't study that hard, or I took the test and I got a C plus, but I didn't even study. So they don't want to find out if they study as hard as they can, maybe they still won't get the A that they really want. And that can be hard. So
that's hard news sometimes for kids to take. I mean, do you think this is something that we as parents are influencing in our kids, or do you think it's hardwired in their DNA? Like, are just some kids born to be perfectionists?
I think there's definitely some element of that. I mean, I know in my own household with 3 kids in my house, it manifests differently. And I know that in my family of origin, it was different too, growing up in the same environment. But what's interesting, Jen, is that before we talked today, I thought, what does your teen have to say about perfectionism? Because I know we've had some interesting articles about this.
I thought we did too, yeah.
And I found one in particular that I thought might have a few points we could talk about, and I'll link it. But one mentioned a 2019 study that showed that kids really do perceive that more is demanded of them. So this is not genetic. This is generational. More than previous generations felt that way. So they feel like we're demanding, the world is demanding more of them. And so they demand more of themselves. And I think maybe, I don't know, do you feel like that is true for you, was true for your kids as teenagers versus your teen years?
I definitely do. And in fact, I think we even, in addition to that great article that you're going to link, maybe Jessica Port can find this for us later, but I think we had a meme that it was like a side-by-side comparison of like what I was expected to do in high school, what my kids are expected. And like for us, it was like, come home, do your homework, have a snack, go out and play, and for our kids, it is more like, okay, I've got to go to this club, and then I've got a sports practice, and then I've got to do 4 hours of homework, and then I had to get up early and go to practice again. It's just like they never get off the treadmill. And I guess it might be a little bit of keeping up with the Joneses. Maybe it's like, some parents see other parents or other kids doing all these things, and you're like, well, I don't want my kid to be at a disadvantage. So if the norm where my kid goes to school is that everybody takes not just 1, but 2 or 3 high-level courses, then I guess my kid needs to do that too, because otherwise they're not going to get into the college they want to go to, or they're not going to get into the postgraduate program they want to do after leaving high school. It's really dangerous, and it's an escalation problem, and I don't really know how we societally scale that down. I guess as a parent, you just have to kind of be brave and say, we're not going to opt in to that level of performance.
It's tough though, Jen, because I feel like, we're talking about, is it genetics, or is it in the water, or in our, are we doing it to our kids? I mean, when you have different kids, in many families, I know many families like this, they have the one kid who pushes.
Right.
And the parents feel like, I need to make sure that kid doesn't go too far. And in the very same group of kids, they have one, they're like, this one needs a nudge. So, I mean, we can sometimes feel like we're opting into this perfectionist mindset by saying you have to do better, or, or we are tempted to anyway. We want this one to do a little more, and we want that one to do a little less. It's like we're trying to get the perfect calibration of our children, which of course we can't do.
Happy medium, right?
Yeah.
That reminds me of when I was in college and I would call home. I'm wondering if you had this experience too. So first of all, back in the day, you could only call home, from the hallway telephone. You didn't have a cell phone, you didn't have a phone in your room. So calls were sort of infrequent, like Sunday night maybe was the night everybody.
By the time, I was in college, we could set up phones in our room, not cell phones, but we still had to worry about toll calls and long
Oh
distance
yeah, right.
charges. Remember that?
It was kind of, yeah, it wasn't quite, we didn't have that constant communication. So it was a check-in. And if I called and said, and my parents said, "How's school?" And if I said, "Oh, I'm really, working hard this week. I got a lot of classes and I'm feeling a little stressed," they'd be like, "Well, you make sure that it's not all about school and you need to take some time and do other things." And that was, good advice. But if it was the other way around, if they called and I said, "Oh, it's really good. I went to this party and I went into town and we did this and that," they'd be like, "Well, don't forget, don't neglect your studies." I just think it's a parental thing. Like we want to be
Wow.
the ballast. Whatever we think they have a little too much of or not enough of, we want to try to correct it. And it all comes from a place of caring. It's the thing that I get now. I didn't
Yeah.
probably understand that back then, but now I do. I do get that. We just want them to be even keeled and like just the right amount of whatever it is that we want them to be.
Yeah. Well, I can share a few of the tips from this article and we can see what we think of how to apply them. What do you think of
Okay.
that?
I like that idea.
All right. So one of them is to become a failure role model. Create opportunities for your child to witness you not being perfect at something important. Well, they might tell you all the time that you're doing things wrong. And I feel like this is one that maybe I picked this one first because I'm acing it because I'm failing at stuff all the time.
Are
Um,
you? Are you really, Sharon?
oh
I don't know
yeah,
about that.
I just feel like every day there's something you fail at. You burn something, whatever
Right.
whatever it might be, you forgot
Did
to
you
bring
ever not bring did you ever not bring all of your kids Christmas presents when you were out of town? I bet you never did that.
that. Our regulars may remember the story of Jen going to the grandparents' house without
Major
the Christmas gifts.
major fail.
Yeah,
It's true
that
though.
I guess.
It did work. My kids felt sorry for me.
Yeah,
I
yeah, yeah.
I felt so bad that they felt sorry for me. That's how bad it was.
But I mean, I think this is like I don't know how many. I feel like this is something that modern parents are probably often more comfortable with. Like, I think it's more common to apologize now than it was when we were growing up, and to demonstrate our own. I screwed up. We
Oh,
say that.
absolutely.
So
I feel like my parents modeled the Queen of England's supposedly what her mantra is, which is never complain and never explain. I try to be a little less that way.
all right. Here's another one that has to do with I think this is a hard one. Help your teen find a mentor. Because then your kid can see that you don't have to be perfect in order to succeed. I actually heard somebody talking the other day about it would be helpful to kids to hear what people, maybe I can't remember where I heard this, but right after college or after school, what people did. And then now later they have some enviable success in their life.
Assuming that the story isn't like I came out of college and went right into a white shoe law firm or whatever that story is. We're assuming that the story is that they worked their way up through a path that wasn't direct.
Right.
Which is
Right.
most
I
of us.
mean, yeah. I think that's the thing they're talking about.
Mhm.
But I do think it benefits in some ways. I feel like the first child is the practice child, and the other kids see the older one screw up. They also see the older one succeed. But as many stories as you can tell, I have to tell this story. I don't think he would mind. So my kid was participating in a competition on Saturday, and he overslept. So he was supposed to get up at 4 a.m. to drive to this competition hours away.
Okay.
With the
Getting up
whole
at 4 a.m. I mean, we cannot be too upset with him for oversleeping on that one. That's brutal.
Right. I mean, that is not, nature does not want us to wake up at 4 a.m. Right.
Yeah.
It's pitch black.
Right.
Well, I learned that it's still pitch black at 5 a.m. because that's when the banging on the front door started downstairs. And long story short, the whole team had come and knocked on our door because my kid was supposed to show up at the high school to go off with the team to compete.
I
And
love that they came to get him, by the way. That tells me that he's an important member of the team and they didn't want him to miss it.
So I got to see this high school senior. This high school senior got to see me in my pink pajamas coming down the stairs, bleary-eyed, and then realizing, oh, Mike, I thought it was going to be my kid who forgot something returning home. But so I went and woke him up. But anyway, he felt, of course, terrible about this. He was embarrassed, and just felt silly because this happened. So we told our stories of this happening. My husband overslept during a really important competition, academic competition, like where you had to submit something. He stayed up like the whole night writing this thing and was going to wake up in the morning and read it one more time and submit it. Slept right through the deadline.
Oh, no.
I overslept for a graduation rehearsal where I was supposed to be giving a speech.
Did you get your speech powers revoked?
No, I got a call and I was so late. I lived half an hour away from the school. I was so late that I got a call. I was still sleeping and they said, "Where are you?"
Oh my God, that's such an awful, awful feeling.
So, I mean, this all to say that, I think that sharing those experiences where we did screw something up can help put the perspective like, oh, it'll be a good story. Someday it'll be funny. Just like to have a sense of humor. I think sometimes we forget a sense of humor can be so, you can't have a sense of humor and be a perfectionist at the same time, right?
I think it would be hard.
Yeah.
So, you have to be able to take yourself down a peg a little bit in a funny way and not beat yourself up. That's the difference. I think that's the difference. Perfectionists don't see any humor in the fact that they're not meeting that level, or at least they're less apt to. And maybe those of us who don't claim any perfectionist tendencies are a little better about saying, well, that didn't go to plan, and be less undone by it.
Yeah. A little more, oh, well, is in order, I guess, sometimes with our, oh, well,
that one didn't go the way I wanted it to. Better luck next time, right? Which is all easy to say now. It's harder in the moment. If you have a perfectionist out there, we'd love to hear, like, how do you help them? Especially if you're not a perfectionist and you have somehow managed to raise one. That must be mystifying. Like, how did that happen? I don't have those expectations of me or you.
Yeah, I didn't do this to my child. We didn't tell you had to be this way.
Where did it come from? So yeah, we'd love to hear what your thoughts are on that and how you deal with it, and how you help to keep it from becoming a hindrance to their mental health and happiness. That's bottom line. That's what we all want. And May is Mental Health Awareness Month, and that's always on our mind at your teen with our adolescents. But in particular, I feel like this is one of those topics that might kind of lead to that next step of talking about, like, why, how do you keep this from being something that really ruins or rules your life? So if you have thoughts about it, we want to hear them.
All right. Well, thanks for joining us, everybody, as usual, and we will see you next week.
See you next time.